year-round studios of Rodale Institute Radio and Television at Lehigh Valley Public Media in Bethlehem, PA, it is time for another climate-denying episode of chemical-free horticultural hijinks You Bet Your Garden. Do you always feel that you don't get as many peppers from your plants as you should? I'm your host, Mike McGrath, and on today's show, we'll reveal exactly how you can take those plants inside and achieve perpetual peppers. Otherwise, it's a fabulous phone call show, Cats and Kittens. That means we'll be taking that heaping helping of your telecommunicated questions, comments, tips, tricks, suggestions, and bizarrely barbaric bibliographies. So keep your eyes and or ears right here, true believers, because it's all coming up faster than you harvesting habaneros when there's still snow on the ground, right after this. In life, we have many kinds of partners. School bus partners, business partners, even gardening partners. Shouldn't you have one for the most important aspect of life, your health? Lehigh Valley Health Network, your health deserves a partner.
Support for You Bet Your Garden is provided by the Espoma Company, offering a complete selection of natural organic plant foods and potting soils. More information about Espoma and the Espoma Natural Gardening Community can be found at espoma.com.
Support for You Bet Your Garden is provided by the Rodale Institute. Since 1947, the Rodale Institute has been growing the organic movement through research, farmer training, and consumer education. Learn more about local events, workshops, and tours at rodaleinstitute.org. The Rodale Institute, because the future is organic. Welcome to another thrilling episode of You Bet Your Garden from the studios of Rodale Institute Radio and Television at Lehigh Valley Public Media in Bethlehem, PA. But not just another thrilling episode. You may recall a few weeks back when we celebrated our 100th show here in the Lehigh Valley. Well, today, and I mean today, this day, marks 22 years of You Bet Your Garden appearing on public broadcasting. You know, the first 20 years I was at that little community station in Philly, but now I've come up to the big time. And this is our second year anniversary here and 22nd anniversary overall. And did you send a card? Anything? A fruit basket, something. Boy, I tell you. Anyway, coming up later in the show, I am going to reveal my secret of keeping your pepper plants alive over the wintertime so that you not only not have to go out and buy new ones, but the ones you'll put out in the spring will be an amazing size. We're also going to take lots of your fabulous phone calls, so let's get right to that at 833-727-9588. Sarah, welcome to You Bet Your Garden.
Well, good morning. How are you?
I am just ducky, Sarah. Thanks for asking. How is Sarah doing?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day out here.
And where is out here?
Dayton, Ohio.
What can we do you for?
Well, I have some English lavender that's growing in a rock wall. It's very happy.
Mm-hmm.
It loves the well-drained soil, but I'd like to move the plant, and I didn't know whether it could tolerate being moved in the fall or prefer being moved in the spring.
Okay. It's funny that you mention this because on my way home from work, one of the ways I take is a drive down this road, and they have the most beautiful patch of lavender, kind of like what you're describing, literally growing out of a stone wall. And it is the nicest lavender I've ever seen in my neighborhood. And it reminded me of the edict that the only thing that you have to be absolutely sure of with both lavender and rosemary is good drainage. And how are you going to get better drainage than with the roots in rocks, right?
Right.
So why do you want to move, and will this move take them out of the rocks and into soil?
No, I actually just want to move it about 3 feet down the wall. and it is in soil, but it's surrounded by rock boulders.
Yeah, that sounds great. Why do you want to move it that short a distance? Just curious.
Um, there's another plant that was small when they were planted next to each other, and now it's growing into it, and so I want to move the lavender where it has some more room.
Oh, okay. Well, because of the loose soil situation and the rocks, this makes perfect sense for you to move them at the absolute perfect time to move any plant, which is when they are completely dormant in like the dead of winter. Let them go completely dormant, and then it's almost like a pruning. The best day to prune is the last day you'd ever want to take yourself outside. So
Right.
wait for a nice cold spell, and then gently move them. And even though this is the winter we're talking about, I want you to water them if there hasn't been any snow or rain.
Okay.
And really make sure they get a good watering. And then obviously we don't want to overwater them, but if it stays dry, and remember, winter is dry in two ways. The air is also dry if we don't get any rain or snow or anything like that. So you want to make sure that they get watered every 3 or 4 days until some natural occurrence comes back. But otherwise, they're going to wake up and go, hey, wasn't that tree over there before?
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate the hints.
Oh, my pleasure. You take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
833-727-9588. Martaza, welcome to You Bet Your Garden.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being had, Martaza. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am just Ducky. Thanks for asking. I don't want to shake Ducky too much or his mask might slip down and the federales will come in. Dr. Fauci will come in and yell at me or something like that.
No, we don't want that.
No. So where are you?
I'm currently calling from Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
Okay, what part of Bucks County?
In like the Ben Salem area.
Okay, very good. What can we do for your garden in Bucks County?
Sure. So I'm actually in the process of moving from Bucks County to central New Jersey.
Okay.
And I want to find a wooded lot.
Mhm.
But I'm a little bit concerned about trying to figure out if the lot will have enough sun to grow my vegetables.
Right. That is, so you haven't picked a place yet?
I haven't picked a place yet, so we've just been house hunting. I want to try to have it be nice and private, have some woods, but then obviously that also brings shade.
Yes. Well, one of the obvious answers is you find a place that has woods on one side, but that maybe has been cleared for a lawn in front of the house or around the house. And sometimes people in your situation will actually use the driveway because that's the only part that gets real sun. So do you intend to do one of these calculations if you're uncertain? Go online and, plug in one of these, not really an app, but it's a calculator. How much sun does my property get? And you do this and then of course you have to guess the height of the trees and the lay of the house.
Okay. Yeah.
But these programs do exist to show you. Now, I will tell you that I did exactly what you're doing. But it took us a year and a half to find a house in the right school district, in a nice neighborhood that we could afford.
Yeah.
And there was no place for a garden. So
Right.
yeah, the first year I took down probably 6 or 7 trees.
Okay.
Which, by the way, people are yelling at me now, that left us with 7,000, okay?
Oh, yeah. Was that expensive to do?
Oh, man, I was such a dunce. I was I was in my early 30s, and, I can do this. 80,
Oh, no.
80-foot high tulip poplar. Why not? I know how to notch a tree, and I'm doing it with a play school chainsaw. It's
Oh, yeah.
a green plastic plug-in.
Oh no.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You'd be leaning into that sucker. The tree would catch on fire before it would fall down. And God protected me. I got so lucky. But the last one I felt, I can still hear the crack.
Whoa.
And I thought it's not exactly going where I hoped it would
Right.
go. But I got away with it. One of the interesting things, though, is I cut everything down to the ground, but then I had no intention of using the native soil.
Right.
So it was okay to have the bottom of the stump still in the ground because I built foot-high raised beds over
You just
top
put it
of
right over the stump?
Yeah, well, not even the
Okay.
stump. I did my impression of what it would be to grind down the stump, get it an inch or two
Yeah.
underground.
Sure.
But then, yeah, because, you always want to grow in raised beds.
Right. Right.
And depending on the age of the house, you don't want to use the soil near the house because there could be lead paint
Right.
there.
Sure.
And I will tell you one thing I did is I had a couple of different options for exactly where I was going to attempt this suicide. And I picked the one with the ugliest trees.
Right.
The tree I had the most fun taking down was a larch. What a great idea, an evergreen that drops its needles. What is that
Oh, no.
about? So it can be done. I technically, if you came to my garden, you would say, do you really get enough sun to grow tomatoes and peppers and everything? And I say, yeah, I lie to them. When I put them in, I tell them they're shade-loving plants.
Oh, right. Right. Yeah. Trick them.
But,
That probably wouldn't go so well for me. You would get away with it. I don't think that would work for me.
but, professional takedowns are really expensive. But,
Right.
of course, you won't split your head open.
Now, if right against the house or on the driveway, like you said, or on the deck, is that okay doing a raised bed that's not on the soil? That's completely fine.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I know a lot of people who have houses in the woods, but they have decks that get great sun,
Hmm.
and so they just cover the deck with containers.
Thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Goodbye. 833-727-9588. Jason, welcome to You Bet Your Garden.
Well, thanks.
How are you doing, Jason?
I'm doing all right. It's a beautiful fall day out here.
And where is out there?
Bryn Athyn, Pennsylvania, which is just northeast of Philadelphia.
All right, Jace, what can we do for you?
Well, my question, my old raised beds are beginning to rot away, so I'm replacing them. And originally, when I put them in, I put landscaping fabric in, which seems to have prevented the worms entirely from going up and down out of the beds and into the surrounding area.
Right.
But I also have a lot of these, sort of the main issue is I have a lot of these fungal diseases, fusarium. I got powdery mildew everywhere. I got, orange spots on the hydrangeas and the dogwood. So my original question was, do I just get rid of all the dirt that was underneath these beds and just replace everything with, because I'm going to make the beds go a little deeper than I did the first time. But, is that dirt that was underneath the landscaping fabric likely to have those organisms in it? And what's the best way to, prevent those things in all sorts of areas? So it's a big question, but,
Okay. You are going to get rid of the landscape fabric, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. That was a sad thing to do at the beginning.
Well, if we didn't make mistakes, we'd never learn.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that is so true.
Disease at this kind of pressure sounds unusual. Does the garden get enough sun?
Well, it gets kind of the sun really starts to get in there a little around noon. Of course, we had the derecho storm go right over our house last year, and a lot of trees are gone now. So it's going to be getting that morning sun now.
Yeah, free tree removal.
Yeah, I did read one of your old posts about tomatoes and how you want the tomatoes to get the morning sun. And of all the plants I planted this year, two that were getting morning sun were the ones that weren't killed by the whatever wilty thing that kills the tomato plants.
Yeah, I believe you said fusarium. I would guess in your climate it's verticillium wilt, but that's
yeah.
caused by planting in the same spot year after year.
Yeah. Well, that was funny. One of them I planted in a new. I just made a new area.
Mm-hmm.
The 4 plants together, and one of them was doing great. It was a cherry tomato plant. We got a lot of cherry tomatoes, and all of a sudden, this disease just raced up it and killed the plant.
Is there a chance of just moving it?
Well, these garden beds are inside of our pool fence, which is that's the place where I want to plant the stuff that the deer like. I have been experimenting with like that one tomato plant. I planted it in a completely different location. And one out of the 4 plants completely died. The other 2 of the others, the ones that got the sun, are way taller than me at this point. So
do these plants get overflow of pool water when people are splashing around and stuff?
No, not at all. Nothing like that.
Okay. And since you're planting inside a fence, inside a confined area, I got to guess that the plants are crowded.
They can be, yeah. I mean, the fence area is big, but the beds are kind of small. They're like 3 by 6.
Right. That's
and
not a bad
You
size.
tend to want to have more things than you probably should in the bed, but
Well, these all sound like symptoms of overcrowding to a large degree, and that's the hardest lesson to unlearn. But you can grow the same number of plants. Just put some of them in containers and make sure there's always airflow between the plants, especially if you're not getting morning sun. They got to get that airflow. They can't be falling over on top of each other.
Okay, well, that's good. That's a discipline. Sounds like a good discipline to learn.
You will get more tomatoes from 2 plants that have a foot of airflow between them than from 4 plants that are all bunched together.
Yeah, that's good to know, yeah.
Now, in terms of this coming up, well, first, yes, build the beds twice as high. I wouldn't worry about the soil down on the bottom because you're going to cover it up with, 6-8 inches more?
Yeah, well, basically my plan is to sink the beds into the ground about 8 inches with some pavers that I've had for years.
Excellent.
And then put some black locust wooden beds for the part that stick out of the ground.
So space them out more. There is a natural disease control, and it's so funny because it sounds like I'm making this up, but it's Bacillus subtilis.
Oh, yeah, all right.
And you might want to read up on that and quite possible spray the old soil before you put the new soil on top.
Okay.
Make sure the new soil has lots of compost and lots of perlite.
Okay.
You want it to drain really well. Plants that, stay wet till noon, they need every advantage they can get.
Yeah.
So you want to improve the drainage. You want to have compost on the top of the soil. And I would have the Bacillus subtilis. It sounds like a character on Huckleberry Hound.
It really does, definitely.
Handy, and at the first sign of any kind of disease, pull off those affected leaves and really spray the plants well.
All right.
Okay?
And that Bacillus subtilis, would I get that from Gardens Alive if I want to buy it?
You can check around. If you just, type it into search engines till it tells you how to spell it correctly, and then see where you can find it.
All right, that sounds great.
Okay, good luck, man.
Hey, thanks very much, and thanks for being great help with gardening.
Oh, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
As promised, it is time for the question of the week, which we're calling How to Make Your Peppers Perennial. Dan in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, laments that his short season makes pepper growing difficult. Meanwhile, Anna Hecht from the CBS website named Chowhound emails us with questions about growing peppers and what to plant in the fall. And our very own audio editor, the always lovely Jonas Bowen, writes that he plans to bring his peppers inside for the winter, quote, as per my recommendations. So let's revisit those recommendations on perennializing your pepper plants. Now, part of this idea came from a visit to a frost-free portion of New Mexico where I saw habanero trees growing, close to 8 foot tall and covered with those beautiful spicy fruits. When I asked about them, I was told that unless there was a freaky frost, the trees would continue to grow and set fruit for decades. Now, if you also garden in a frost-free region like San Diego or southern Florida, you don't need this trick. But if you're in the other 99%, it is a trick worth trying. Okay, if your pepper plants are still in the ground, dig them up on the next nice day, leaving as much soil around the roots as possible to ease the shock of being transplanted. Move them into containers, adding enough high-quality potting mix, that means no chemical fertilizers or water-holding crystals, and compost to fill in the empty areas. Now, because I do this every year, most of my peppers spend the summer in 12-inch pots. That's 12 inches high and 12 inches across, one plant per pot. Unless frost is predicted, leave your prepared pots outside for a few days to settle and then begin your aphid intervention. The biggest enemy of overwintering peppers are aphids. Those masses of small sapsuckers love to ruin roses and then move on to peppers. But for some weird reason, you don't normally see the aphids on the peppers as you're preparing to bring them in. But you should assume that they are there. Using a pressurized sprayer or an adjustable garden hose nozzle set to laser beam, blast every crevice of the plant with the sharpest streams of water possible. Sure, you can cradle the plant with one hand while you blast it, but don't worry about the seeming roughness of this water. I've never even lost a flower getting my peppers ready to come in. If temps in the 30s are predicted that night, bring the plants inside to a safe area. If temps are going to be decent, leave them outside. Repeat your aphid annihilation protocol twice more. The final time also rinsing off every part of the pot, including the inside rim. Do not skip this step, or plants that were to be perennialized will instead be aphidized, and it's not pretty. Now, don't add soap, oil, neem, or anything else to this initial protocol. But if things go south over the winter, yes, insecticidal soap, a light horticultural oil, and or neem would be intelligent responses. But for now, just follow the old adage that water is the best pesticide. Make sure your frost-sensitive plants go indoors before nighttime temps drop lower than the mid-40s. Once inside, you'll get the best results if you arrange your peppers beneath fluorescent shop lights that contain 4 tubes that are 4 feet long each. Yeah, you can use the 2-tube fixtures, but if you do, be sure the tops of the plants are within an inch of touching the lights and don't stray to the outskirts of the light. 4-tube pictures give you a lot more leeway. Now, no matter what, select the fluorescent tubes with the highest listed number of lumens. The higher the number of lumens, the more light for your plants. Set a timer so they get 16 hours of light a day and 8 hours of darkness. And carefully consider your location options. If your, quote, basement is actually an unfinished cellar, try and find a place where the level of heat would be acceptable to you. That means no unheated garage or greenhouse unless you're in one of those frost-free zones, and then we don't care what you do. Coward. The more light and the more normal the level of heat the plants receive, the more water and nutrients they're going to need. So feed them monthly with a balanced organic liquid fertilizer. If you do this correctly, every existing flower should become a pepper, and every green pepper should be able to ripen up. And if you really show off your opposable thumbs, new flowers will appear, and you'll post so many pictures of them on Instagram that their servers will crash. But even if you are only somewhat realistic about providing enough light and ambient heat, your pepper plants, or at least some of them, should survive to go out again next season, when they will be a foot or more tall instead of the shrimpy little things you typically start the season with. These second-year plants will flower and fruit fast when they get outdoors. Do this halfway right and you'll be picking ripe, fully colored up peppers before you get your first ripe tomato. Now make sure the neighbors know this. In fact, consider waiting until you see a neighbor outside and ask them for help, quote, because my pepper plants are almost too big for me to handle. Oh, and look at your cute tiny little plants. They're so adorable. Because in gardening, it is not enough to succeed. Others must fail. Well, that sure was some timely news about peppers hot and sweet, now wasn't it? Luckily for you, the question of the week appears in print at the Gardens Alive website, where you can read it over at your leisure or, of course, your leisure. Just click the link for the question of the week at our website, which is still and will forever be YouBetYourGarden.org. Gardens Alive supports the You Bet Your Garden question of the week, and you will always find the latest question of the week at the Gardens Alive website. You betcha. You Bet Your Garden is a half-hour public television show, an hour-long public radio show and podcast, all produced and delivered to you weekly by Rodale Institute Television and Radio in association with Lehigh Valley Public Media in Bethlehem, PA. Our radio show is distributed by PRX, the Public Radio Exchange. You Bet Your Garden was created by Mike McGrath. Mike McGrath was created by Jack Kerouac, who found him lying on the floor of the City Lights bookstore. Yikes, my producer is threatening to poach my peppers if I don't get out of this studio. We must be out of time. But you can call us anytime at 833-727-9588 or send us your email, you're tired, you're poor, your wretched refuse, teeming towards our garden shore at ybg@wlvt.org. Include your location or we'll do something mean. So there. You'll find all of this contact information, the answers to all of your garden questions, audio of this show, video of this show, audio and video of old shows, and our priceless podcast. It is all at youbetyourgarden.org. I'm your host, garlic planting Mike McGrath, and I still have lots of cloves to take care of, so be careful that you don't stand still next to me anytime soon, or I may have to cut your scapes off long after I see you again next week.